There it goes.
Yep.
Today we're talking about serving homeschoolers in our library. We have 4 presenters. They're just going to kind of go around the room and talk about what they're doing in their libraries and how it's working for them. They each have a slide presentation. I've given them about 10 or 15 minutes to talk. Then we'll have a little question and answer time, and you can all go about your day. So Kathy Hale from Savenberg is going to go first.
Okay. Once upon a time, there was a lonely librarian in a very small town in Kansas. One day, her library was given over 170 books to share with preschool children.
So we don't see your slideshow.
Okay. So what do I need to do? Because it worked before.
Did you push the share screen at the bottom?
Probably not. Just a minute. Go back. Share screen. Oh, shoot. I just went out of it. Does somebody else want to go first?
You're fine. Just
Okay.
bring it back up on your computer. The person who goes first gets a whole lot of leeway. The later people we're going to grade much harder.
That's good. So, now can you see that? Can you see my screen now?
No, we see your lovely face.
Oh dear.
I'm seeing your screen now.
Okay, then we'll go.
Okay.
Once upon a time, there was a lonely librarian in a very small town in Kansas. One day, her library was given over 170 books to share with preschool children. So she began to plot and to plan how to get these books and stories to the children. She went to a workshop and learned to tell stories. Then she looked for children and found 2 in her town. But alas, they belonged to homeschool families, and their mothers could not bring them unless the whole family came. So she decided to plan a story time, crafts, and activities for children of all ages. She planned a Valentine's party and coaxed many children to come. They all loved it and agreed to return. So the story time was born and continues to thrive. The librarian is seldom lonely because the children love to visit her library. So how do we do it? We announce our story times on Facebook page, with a flyer, on our website, and by word of mouth. I also send out reminders through a chat group on Messenger. I usually announce our theme, ask for RSVPs so I can better plan for crafts and snacks. Sometimes I suggest a show and tell for the children to bring. Also, our library board agreed to allow me an extra hour every month to conduct our story time. It's an hour before our regular time. Be very difficult for me to offer a story time and run the desk as a single staff person. So we have our special hour. We meet once a month at 1 o'clock, which is an hour before we regularly open, from September through May. We always have stories, a show and tell time, and snacks. Sometimes the show and tell time is something they've brought from home, and sometimes we'll have a craft and then I'll ask them to talk about it, what they've made, and to share it with the others. And then we plan a fun activity. It might be a craft, it might be music. We have rhythm instruments, and oftentimes I use a YouTube to have a song to go with those. Or we might have games. We can go outside, and usually the Legos are out before the end of the day. Our most successful programs, the Valentine's party continues to be a favorite. The children will decorate Valentine boxes, bring Valentines for the other children. I have to have RSVPs because I get back to the mothers and tell them how many Valentines the children need to bring. We started with a game this year, then we had a story time for everyone, And then we split up into 2 groups for other activities and games. Then we come back together for snacks and mail delivery. This is a fun food craft we give. Everybody was given the Granny Smith apples were cut in half. Then everyone was given a plastic knife. They cut their grapes in half. They carved on the turtle backs, and it was a big hit. Another fun day is our Dr. Seuss birthday party. This is a come and go affair. It is open to everyone, but the homeschool families are the main ones who turn out. As you can see from these pictures, some of my families prefer that their children not be put online with their faces, so we try to respect their privacy. They've also made decorations for the community Christmas tree. We've had a fire safety and tour of our volunteer fire department, which is across the street. Another time they dressed up as storybook characters. And then this was a new thing for us last year, the American Girl Tea Party. Again, this was open to the whole community, but the homeschool families are the ones who really come out for it. In this second slide, I have some girls doing their show and tell with the dolls they brought and introducing them to the ladies. We had about 50 people show up for this. At the same time we had our American Girl Tea Party, we had another event in the library with a wildlife biologist who had some men. We had a few fathers come, and the boys that preferred were at that event. Some of our programs require homework. This was a bridge building program. We read the story 21 Elephants, and we sent them home with a kit with some popsicle sticks and glue, and their bridge had to be a certain length, and then we had them judged with all the weight would be placed in the middle, and bridges were eliminated as they succumbed to the weight. Another fun program was in October. They decorated pumpkins with paint or dressed them up for storybook pumpkins. Couldn't do it unless the mothers help. The mothers help with craft and games, and a few times they will suggest that they have a little lesson for the older group. I have always been with the preschool group, but if I do split them up, I will send them out with 2 mothers. I've never just sent one mother with the older children. Another way they help is they recommend books to others. They might say, have you read these books? They're really good short vowel books. Or how about this series? You know, my child really liked this. And in turn, we help our mothers. We give them a place to connect with others. Our story time almost functions as a support group for them. We try to develop some of their teaching skills by some of our learning activities that go with the story. And we've taught them about our resources. This last fall, we had a very successful Mom's Night Out. I had 16 moms come from all over Southeast Kansas. We taught them a little bit about seek and find, how to search for books, how to make lists, and how to place holds on books. Some of them were inexperienced in this. And then we spent most of our time on the Kansas library card. I believe only 1 out of the 16 had a card when she came to our Mom's Night Out, but they all signed up for a card that night. They learned how to use the digital books, the audio books, the manga languages, Learning Express. We spent some time on Universal Class and showed them where the practice GEDs and ACT tests were. They were just really thankful to learn about all that was out there. The children are growing through this time through literary skills, social skills. It's interesting to teach them classroom skills and manners like raising their hand or getting in a line or taking turns, not speaking unless they're called upon. And then they have grown in their public speaking skills through our show and tell time. We've had, especially one family, the children were very, very shy, and now they are participating in show and tell, and their mother also has them in another co-op, and they're just doing well. Our library is also growing. When we first started this story time 5 years ago, we only had easy books, juvenile fiction, and juvenile nonfiction. So as we had the story time, I saw the need to have the board books, the beginning reader books, and we have a separate division of biographies. Because we have this story time, the homeschoolers also attend our other programs. I have developed skills through offering a story time. I've had to learn how to do a PowerPoint. I've learned more about the Kansas Library Card to share with others. I enjoy learning things with a purpose to share with others. And our material circulation has increased. Our population is on the decline, but Storytime began in 2013, and the blue line is the juvenile checkouts, and the brown line is our overall checkouts. And in conclusion, I have a saying I like. It says, "Do what you can with what you have and where you are," by Theodore Roosevelt. And not everybody has the same demographics I do. I mean, we are 100 people, and a lot of our patrons have to drive to come here anyway. I couldn't really have a story time unless the mothers were bringing them. And then this was a presentation I did for Big Talk from Small Libraries, and at the end they asked me some questions, so oops, I guess I don't have a slide added. Some of the things they asked me were if anybody came that wasn't a homeschool family, and we do have some families come that just have preschool children. Our library is only open 12 hours a week, so this is a 13th hour during some weeks, just once a month. We also have other programs and activities and try to accommodate different family schedules. Our city and our community group called Savenberg Pride, we're working with them, and we try to have at least 3 activities a month, and some of them are on Saturdays, some of them are on the evenings, and then this one is in the afternoons. In general, when I plan my story time, I focus on activities that children in a regular classroom would be doing, like the fire station tour, the Valentine's party, the show and tell, doing music in a group. And usually mothers are bringing the children. Sometimes we'll have a grandparent or a father or an aunt bring the kids because they don't want to miss our event. And generally speaking, the ones that come to the regular monthly meetings are traveling 30 miles or less. Several of them are just 5 miles away. But the Valentine's party and the Mom's Night Out, I had attendees from over 60 miles away. So that concludes my talk.
Thank you, Kathy. Heather from Coffeyville, let's see. You'll have to release the
I'm looking for the magic button.
at the top.
Stop share. Good. Okay.
All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Like Sandy said, I am Heather Van Dyne, and I'm the children's librarian at the Coffeyville Public Library. Our homeschool program is the Coffeyville Homeschool Connection, and I did not come up with that. The homeschool moms already had everything established by the time I started. And let's see. Trying to get to this next slide. Okay. The homeschoolers are really their own entity, their own group, and they have their regular routine that for the most part I am there as a support person. I do not handle the lessons. I am more or less the hostess of the space. The homeschool group, everything that they do is free of charge, and it's taught by the parents of homeschoolers, which for the most part consist of mothers. Sometimes, although it's very rare, a dad will come. If they have a visiting relative, the kids like to show them off, and that's their show and tell, is to bring this special visitor. and the ages vary since it's open to all age groups. Officially, there is not a beginning or an ending. It's basically school age, preschool, so 3 years old to senior high school, which is 17, 18. The group kind of starts trickling in around 10 o'clock, and they do school for about an hour and a half up until noon. So what you see here is a typical homeschool day at the library. Around 10 o'clock is pretty much when I have to have everything that I wanted to get done in peace and quiet done, because I will not have time for anything else once the homeschoolers arrive. They take up a lot of attention and a lot of my desk, because they kind of just they pile everything on with returns and checkouts and hold requests and and issues with the computers. It's fun, but it's crazy. But it's one of those good problems that you're glad that they're there, although it can be a little bit overwhelming for that first half hour. Around 10:30 is when they get started. The moms have set up their program, have set up their programs for whoever's instructing that day, and they migrate over to our stage area and do the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag, the Christian flag, and the Bible. I learned the hard way last week that I need to be paying attention, because I kept checking stuff in, not realizing that they were doing their pledges, and every time I turned back, they started another pledge. So it's really good to kind of just join them, or or kind of just pause for a couple of minutes out of respect. And once the pledges are done, they do prayer requests and then announcements, which I have found is the best time to let them know about programs that are going on, and also to do your head count for stats, because it is the only time that they will be all together in the same spot relatively still. And then closer to 10:45, 11 o'clock is when they split up. They have what they call the littles, which are ages 3 to 8, and then the older kids, which are 9 and up. Of course, it can go all the way up to, by the time I guess they're done with school, ready to get their diploma. But usually 16 is when they start studying independently and they no longer come to homeschool group. So at that point, for the most part, the attendance is 9 to about 15, 16 for the older kids. They do their lessons, which are instructed by the mothers on a rotation, and at 11:30 is when they wrap it up. And then the kids have free time. they're getting at the computer so they can play some games. They're trying to figure out who wants to carpool with whose friend, where are we going for lunch, and then also the final, the last of the checkouts for kids that weren't able to get their stuff before the program started. And by about noon is when the program is completely done. So I wanted to discuss what the library does for them. At our library, we have a designated shelf location for just homeschool material. And those shelves that I've taken pictures of, a lot of that is donations from schools and retired teachers, and also parents who have already used these materials on their kids, and they've outgrown it, and they just want to pass it along to the next person. And they don't have an individual in mind, so they will bring it to the library and donate it to the homeschool collection and the homeschool group. It doesn't really have a whole lot of official circulation in the system. It's pretty much workbooks that some families take, but as far as like the school stuff, there honestly is not enough kids that are at the same level at the same time to really use up all of those workbooks. So it's become more of a freebie area for whoever wants to take it, as opposed to a collection that's checked out and checked back in. What we also do is we have given them all access to library media. The older students do a lot of audio visual presentations, so we give them we provide a television, sometimes a laptop if what they already have is not compatible with the TV or the projector, and we will get that for them, assist with any issues that they might have, and just be on standby in case there is anything that we can do to make their experience or their lesson for that day better. And also the benefits of having homeschoolers and a homeschool program in the library is that the homeschoolers have really taught me a lot as far as what is circulating. I have noticed that the homeschool kids, they have a more adventurous taste in books, and they are willing to try new things and won't be stuck on Dork Diaries or Captain Underpants until their mom forces them to read something else. And the homeschoolers are also a major circulation boost. They will check out 6 to 12 books at one time. It's a flood of people. It's noisy and fun, and these kids are learning and having a good time, and it just brings like this refreshing energy to the library every week, which I love. It's also a great opportunity to kind of use them as an impromptu focus group. when I first started last year, I began an intensive program called Super Readers, where every 10 books got that were read earned them a prize. And the homeschoolers really responded really well to that, and it caught on. The only reason that I discontinued it was because summer reading took over that role. And and then I started library school, so I haven't. It's something that I never got back to. In preparation for this webinar, I decided to reach out to my homeschool moms and ask them to fill out a survey online. And I wanted to share the results briefly. What they responded was that nearly all of the families just come to the library once a week for the homeschool hour. And as far as other library programs that are not geared specifically towards homeschoolers or organized by the homeschool group, they mostly do not participate. A lot of it is because of distance. Many of these families live in other towns or very far out of the country, so they do not come into town very often unless it's for something specific. And also, many of these children are ages 12 and under, so the elementary age is what I need to focus on as far as collection development. And touching on to the last points, the homeschool parents see the library as a low or no cost educational resource alternative. They don't expect us to provide their curriculum because they've already planned it out months, if not a year in advance. But that being said, it has shown me that I need to get more considerate of homeschoolers as far as collection development and taking homeschool related materials into account that can be used as a lesson or as a teaching tool. Finally, how do I communicate with the homeschool group, and how do I let other people know that we do have a homeschool program? Truthfully, we do not have a whole lot of walk-ins. I think only 2, maybe 3 times has somebody come to the library asking for information about our homeschool group. The majority of it is online. We post about it on our website, letting them know that the day and time it starts, where in the library it is, and then also on social media, the Homeschool Connection does have their own private Facebook page. That is where the homeschool parents communicate with each other. It's how they communicate. It's how I can communicate with them, and it also shows their lesson plans, who's going to be teaching, and whether or not they are going to be doing any activities outside of the library. I mean, that is pretty much, in a nutshell, what the homeschool group is about at the Coffeyville Library. I hope to do more in the future, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, Independence girls, Charlene and Betsy. I'll let them take over.
All right. Hello. I'm Charlene. This is Betsy. Let me just get to the share screen here. One sec. That one. Okay, and present. Okay, can you guys see everything? Okay. So I'm going to talk first. I am in charge of the homeschool classes for kindergarten to 5th grade. And how this started was actually back last summer. We started working with our local homeschool group, and we planned our event to fit in between the times that they didn't have any other activities, because they actually do weekly, daily, grouply activities in our town. And our homeschool class runs during the time that local school is during the school year. So we only have about 2 more sessions left this year, and then we'll restart again come the school year. We do post our classes up on their Facebook group page, so that way other homeschool groups will come. We also post it up on our Facebook page, our website, and flyers and word of mouth. For my group for the kindergarten through 5th grade, mostly what I use is this resource called Pay Teachers, the STEM Challenges of the Month. It is created for 2nd to 5th grade students, but I've been able to tweak it a little bit so it'll fit for K to 5th grade. It is about $45 for all 30 STEM challenges, but their challenges include lesson plan guides, step-by-step procedures, helpful hints, lab sheets, answer sheets, photos that can help you along with the challenge, a scoring rubric, and an editable form file. And I included the link at the bottom, so if you wanted to check it out, you can. You can also purchase them individually for like $7 to $9 or $3 as a separate one if you only wanted a few of them. But I decided to purchase all of them because I've used some. Some of them Betsy has used with her group, and then I plan to use others next year as well. This is one of the examples that I did back in October, was the haunted maze example. So these are some sample sheets. There's the materials and prep, which I use like all the time, especially in the bottom right-hand corner there. It tells you what to provide for them. And it teaches them how to use the materials they're provided without overgoing or throwing tons of stuff away. They've been really good at learning that. Then they give you directions of how you can run the lesson. So the background, asking, the imagination, and plan. And on the asking section there, you'll see like a little picture of a worksheet. I started using that worksheet at the beginning, and I found that a lot of my kids are on the younger side, so they do not know how to write words. So I kind of have skipped this section. But I still go over the plan and asking them how they imagine to handle it, imagine what they're going to do. But I do go over with them the constraints. So I'll sit down with them, talk about the topic, ask them what it is, and then go over the constraints with them, while some can read and some cannot. And then instead of doing the activity sheet, on the back of the constraints page, I ask them to draw me what they plan to use the materials for, and then they have to label it correctly. Or, what do they plan to use to build the walls, or what are they going to use for their box, or anything like that. And then on the third picture there's some of the photos that go along with that resource. So we meet with the homeschool group every 2nd and 4th Monday of the month from 11 to 12 o'clock. For the children, for the K to 5th grade, we have around 5 to 8 children each session. I sit around the table, we have an open discussion about the subject of the challenge. And then each child will receive the challenge sheet, and we go over and discuss them, ask if they have any questions, anything like that. Then on the back, they draw their plan and label their materials before actually receiving their materials. So they get to see them, but they can't touch them until I say, okay, your plan is good, now go ahead and start building. Then they're given the rest of the time to complete their challenge. And the majority of the projects that they complete are actually taken home when they are done. So this is a list of some of the challenges that were purchased through that thing. The green are the projects that we have done and completed. The pink are ones that the teams have actually completed. And the ones that are not in any color are ones I plan to use in the future. So for this April, we are going to build a wind-powered boat and design an earthquake-resistant building. And that one involves putting Jell-O in a tin, and they get to make Jell-O. I can't wait to try that one. It'll be fun. These are some of the pictures I've taken along with their consent. This was their snowman building without snow. It was actually interesting until they saw the girl in the blonde on the left figure out that they had to put something in the middle. A lot of them were trying to build it just out of tissue paper, which wasn't working well. With different sizes, everything worked. This was another one in December because I couldn't do specific holidays. We built an igloo. And, at first we talked about, the importance of an igloo. Where are igloos found? Why would you build an igloo? And then they got to build one. It was a fun day that day. I like all my groups. They're all fun. I think I only have one more, and this was October. This was the other one I did. They had pulley systems, and there's 2 pulley systems. One, they had a bucket, and then the other one, they had to create a contraption to hold their pumpkin and then lift it up and down without it falling off. So that is my homeschool group, and I'll pass it on to Betsy now.
Okay, so mine is for 6th grade and up. Mostly we have 12 years old is usually the oldest. There's an occasional 16-year-old that comes, but we have between 6 and 10 regular attendees. And like Charlene said, we meet twice a month. And a lot of the kids that come have siblings in both sides. So the parents come and sort of hang out in a group together while their kids are on either side of the library. So my first day at work here was actually the first day of the homeschool club. Yeah, that's right. So I got thrown into it from the very beginning. So the first thing we did was a moon crater lab where we dropped different rocks and balls into a tub of flour to see how far the flour flew and how deep the craters were and different things like that. And then we did early animation techniques. Edible water bottles is one of the funner things we've done. You use what's that stuff? It's some kind of glycerin gel that you use to make cheese, I think. But you can make a bubble out of it, and it captures water inside, and you can eat it. We also tried out making milk plastic, but that didn't go very well. We do the football and soccer series and the Ferris wheel and roller coasters. Those came from Charlene's books. The Ferris wheels and roller coasters were really popular. I found that the 6th graders, they like taping and gluing things together. It doesn't really matter what it is. And then we have some thimble electronics kits that for the past 2 sessions, they worked on building, one's building a Wi-Fi controlled light switch and the others built a piano. Here's an example of the edible water bottles. Not many of them turned out to be real bubbles, but they were interesting. And here are the Ferris wheels. I give them as, like Charlene's is very planned out, but I give them as little instruction as possible. So for these Ferris wheels, some of them had trouble because they wanted me to tell them exactly how to build it. And I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to see what they could come up with. But they all sort of ended up looking pretty much the same. And here's the milk plastic that failed. It never solidified into plastic. And then the balloon towers was a really fun day, and it was neat to see on the left, those were more of the older kids, and their tower was very carefully constructed, and they didn't use a whole lot of tape. And then on the right, that group, I think they went through 2 rolls of masking tape building their tower as tall as they could. I find ideas different places. Howtosmile.org has a lot of different science experiments that are divided by chemistry or oceans, or sort of whatever subject you're looking for. You can find something that works, and it has age ranges and preparation times and instructions and pictures and stuff to follow. Science Bob is another website I use that has different experiments. And then teachengineering.org has a lot of the activities are also searchable, and they give background information on kind of what skills are being learned in the program and whatnot. So that's what we do.
Yeah, so as Betsy mentioned at the beginning of hers, what I probably should have mentioned too. So the whole group comes on that Monday, and then at 11 o'clock, depending on their grade, they're split up. So it's kind of like a family homeschool club, but they get split up. So far I've heard from the parents, they love coming. A lot of them are regulars every time. And it continues to grow slowly. We do plan to continue on doing it again next year. And I did like the idea from someone else doing a review. So we're gonna try that with our group to see, okay, what worked, what didn't work, what would you like us to try next year? And if you have any other questions, please let us know. Wait, it didn't end. How do I end it?
At the top, it
Stop.
should say.
There it goes, okay.
Oh, hey, you did it. Okay, we've heard from each of the speakers, and we have about 15 minutes, which, does anyone have any questions?
I see Kathy's question there. Why doesn't Charlene do holidays? The families that I have, they celebrate different holidays. So I didn't want to make one program based just on Christmas or one. So I decided to skip the holidays for just the homeschool group. That doesn't mean I didn't do holiday programs during the month. Just for the homeschool group, I didn't do holiday programs.
So that means the second and the fourth Monday, they weren't holiday focused. They were on the STEM focus.
Yes, they were on the STEM focus with a snow winter aspect to it.
Any other questions? I think you all answered my questions. One of them was, do you include these programs that you offer during the day targeting homeschoolers on your regular programming calendar or scheduling? And I think everyone said yes.
I also, for mine, I repeat mine, whatever the homeschoolers do in the morning, I repeat that program at 4:30 in the afternoon when the teens get here from school, and let them do the program again.
So it's offered twice that day?
Yeah.
And you only offer it the second and the fourth. Do they not come on the first and the third Mondays, or?
So as I mentioned, the homeschool group here, they get together and do all types of stuff in our town. And on the first and third Monday, they actually go to our Science and Tech Center and do a program over there for an hour.
Okay, so they're meeting once a week. They just aren't meeting at your location.
Yes, yes.
It depends on what the program is. For instance, the balloon towers that they made, that was wildly successful for both of them. But anything that takes sort of time to plan out, the after school crowd is not so interested in planning and constructing.
They're done thinking. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
I think one thing I've noticed from this is that the ages are so different at every location. Everybody's doing it just a little bit different way. And so you're going to, if you aren't doing a program, you're going to just want to see what works for them.
Also, you all three have really strong connections with the homeschool group. You're into that network, and you have made a place for yourselves in the network, and you keep your communication going. I was also going to ask Heather, how do you just get rid of the old, I mean, like, there's got to be old books on that shelf and they're not yours. So how are you going to get rid of those?
Actually, when they are getting close to summer break, I will ask them if they want me to go through the books in the homeschool section, or do they want to go through and see what things they want to keep and what stuff they want to get rid of. And
so you're pushing them to do some spring cleaning.
Well, I was told when I started to not touch the books.
Oh.
So I didn't want to make anybody mad.
Yeah. Okay.
So I see a question from Chris. I have approached them. In turn, they will invite others to our program, but I initiated the program to my homeschool moms.
I'm trying to remember at our library how that happened. So we have a mom, homeschool mom, who's very involved with our library, and she was connected with the homeschool group here. So I think in a sense it was her connection to the library helped the connection with the homeschool group, and from that I believe they approached us about doing a program.
I believe that with the homeschool moms that they reached out to the library to see if they can use the space, since it was a relatively central location. I have moms from Coffeyville, Deering, Edna, and they kind of just converged into into my space.
Any other questions or comments?
Oh.
Kim, did you have anything that you wanted to? Oh, here's a question from Rita.
My program does not do, they're all studying different things, so there's no way I could pick a program that would match any of them. They do have some curriculums that they use that are heavy users of library books. And when we did our last collection development grant, we had kind of targeted some of their needs on that.
Rita, to answer your question, we do not, just because we have so many different kids in different ages, different grade levels, and a lot of them are following different curriculums, so we do not follow it, what they are studying at the time.
Rita, well, since the homeschool program is, my part in it is pretty indirect, the homeschoolers, they do have their own lesson plans, their own curriculum, but when they meet, they've decided beforehand on a central theme for their semester. The semester is presidents, so they will pick a different president to study that day. What I do is I find out beforehand and I pull books for them, and I try and make sure that I have any materials that they might need.
Do you does each of the three groups, do you publicize what you will be talking about or what your theme is for that session?
On our flyers, we do, like I'll say mention on mine what my challenge is, and
Yeah.
You think you do the same thing?
Yeah.
So we do. We try to, at least. I think this month we didn't because my error, but we try to.
I always try to do it. I think I mentioned, because sometimes they're bringing show and tell items, or if it's a day we're going to paint or be outside, I will mention that so that they're better prepared for that activity.
I will publicize through displays, but I don't make any announcements or flyers or social media posts further than that.
Well, unless anyone has any other questions for I think that we're finished. Thank you to our presenters, Charlene, Betsy, Kathy, and Heather. I appreciate you taking time to share with us about what you're in your libraries. And those of you that listened or watched today, this was new for me, so it went well.
Yes.
Okay. Kim, is there anything else I need to do?
No, I think we're good. We will edit some of the beginning stuff when we had problems.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was going to mention who had problems. You do get extra points for going forward first, though. And then we'll put this up on the website so that we had a lot of people who were registered who didn't come. And so I assume that we're going to be getting a lot of hits on this. And I also think that it went very well, and we'll probably do more things like this. So think about what you'd like to do on Zoom, because I think it's a really efficient way for us to exchange information. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, the leave button is at the bottom.